President Cyril Ramaphosa's image as a corruption buster has suffered a blow after revelations that controversial facilities company Bosasa paid R500,000 into his campaign for the ANC's presidency last year. Ramaphosa says he was unaware of the donation, and his campaign team maintains that the president was ignorant of the payment, which was made into a ring-fenced trust account. But opposition parties have cried foul and are demanding that Ramaphosa come clean.
Now, Mr. President, here I hold a proof of payment that was transferred to say R500,000 need to be transferred to a trust account called EFG2 on the 18th of October last year. This was allegedly put for your son, Andile Ramaphosa.
And this payment, I can assure you, Mr. Maimani, that I asked him at close range whether this was money that was obtained illegally, unlawfully, and he said this was a service that was provided, and to this end, he actually even showed me a contract that he signed with Bosasa, and the contract and the contract also deals with issues of integrity, issues of anti-corruption, and all that.
Well, Michael has been digging into this. Michael, tell us more about Bosasa and the scandal surrounding it.
A series of controversies over the years, Jane, and we're going to explore some of them as we get to know this company. In fact, it's changed its name fairly recently. It's now known as African Global. It's also expanded its reach in terms of sectors and industries, but it really made its name as a company providing services to South African prisons. So catering, security, fencing, that sort of thing, taking care of really prison services across South Africa. It claims that it's done quite a lot for the country, training about 80,000 offenders, helping to rehabilitate around about 40,000 youth as well. And as I mentioned, it has expanded into other sectors, for example, IT systems. It also says on its website that it provides smart solutions for facilities and offices across the country. Also going green to some extent, saying that it provides renewable energy infrastructure, all part of its smart energy campaign in office facilities. But here is where it gets a little bit controversial. Gavin Watson is the CEO of the company. He's known to have strong links to the ANC, as well as former President Jacob Zuma. And this is another name, Jane, that is intimately connected to Bosasa. Linda MT was the former Correctional Services Commissioner. He has been accused of taking several bribes from Bosasa in exchange for tenders worth roughly 1.5 billion rand. So as much as this controversy around Cyril Ramaphosa has made headlines, there is a long history when it comes to this particular company.
So, is our president dodgy?
Well, that's a difficult question to answer, Jane, but let's fast forward to 2018 and some other questions which are arising about Bosasa's past. There have been no convictions or prosecutions linked to those previous controversies. We understand the Special Investigating Unit delivered several case dockets to the NPA a few years ago, in fact. No one at high level in terms of Bosasa or Linda MT have been prosecuted so far. Now let's focus on Andile Ramaphosa. Of course, he has been a consultant to Bosasa. He has worked for the company. Initially, President Cyril Ramaphosa said that this payment was for work that he had done for Bosasa. He then changed tack, as it were, saying that it was a campaign donation. But if that's the case, Jane, it all begs the question, why did Ramaphosa's campaign allow a donation from a company which really has been mired in controversy?
Right, we're going to try to get down to the bottom of that right now. Thank you, Michael. Tonight, we ask UDM President Bantu Halomisa, Professor Lesiba Tefo from UNISA, and Professor Becky Ngomezulu from the University of Cape Town is going to join us a little later about the impact of the Bosasa scandal on perceptions of Ramaphosa's integrity. Welcome, all of you. Let me start off with you, Bontu Holomisa. What sort of impact do you think this is going to have on Cyril Ramaphosa? How dangerous?
Well, it will depend on how Cyril Ramaphosa wants to handle this issue further. You must remember that he was answering a question inside Parliament. It was strange for him now to just issue a letter saying, I'm changing what I had said. What I would expect from him is that he should write a letter again to the Speaker and say, I would like to come and address Parliament, and if possible, take some questions on the mistake I have made. But by running away and threatening or suggesting that they may pay back the money, we are not interested in that. That money was used. And his explanation now is saying, we use that money for campaign. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, if that is the policy of the ANC. But for him to say, my son received X and so on, it looks like there are two transactions which needs clarity. The sooner President Cyril Ramaphosa address Parliament or face the nation and explain this, because a lot of South Africans, including international community, were beginning to raise some hopes that at last there is someone who wants to put systems in place. But now, on this
country's on self-destruct, isn't it?
Yeah, but the sooner he goes back to Parliament, where he raised this issue, then the Parliament can debate this. If he doesn't want to, the Speaker then must table that letter of President Cyril Ramaphosa to Programs Committee, and then we have a snap debate. Then we can take a decision to say there's no need to appoint a new commission of inquiry. Let us instead ask the President to extend the terms of reference of Zondo Commission, if it wouldn't cater for that.
Okay, that's quite far down the line. Let's just hold it there for a minute. Professor Tefo, I mean, how dangerous do you think this is for the President, and what do you make of the way he's played it so far?
Look, I mean, he started pretty well and gave us much hope for the future. When I heard this, I must just concede that the first question I had for myself, did he really need to find himself in this situation? A man so well endowed. I mean, he could have just voted a certain amount of money to run his campaign if it was necessary, like Donald Trump did. I mean, again, surely I feel immensely disappointed. A man who started so well, but the sooner maybe, if he wants to kill this, the sooner he avails himself to Parliament and to the people of South Africa to explain himself. And if needs be, just acknowledge, I add my apologies. I think there is still good and sufficient goodwill that would embrace and forgive him.
All right, we've got our guest from Cape Town, Becky Ngomezulu. Thank you for joining us. Is that the way to go? Is that the only solution to this impending crisis for him, possible crisis? Is resolving it in Parliament?
No, for me, there are a couple of issues that we need to consider in this regard. Firstly, if we look at this issue in isolation, it looks like a very innocent issue. But unfortunately, we have to consider the context within which it happened. We recall that not so long ago, you had the then President Zuma, who was in a hot soup for the fact that he started refurbishing his home, and then, of course, some money was exchanged. And then the same Parliament wanted the President to explain as to why he didn't know what was happening in his own house. And then he had to explain himself in that regard. So for the sake of consistency, we then have to ask the same question to the current President. Given that he set up the fund, the trust fund last year, and so many months have passed, and we haven't had a word from the President regarding this money until recently. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, it is true that he didn't know about the money. Then the question is, how much money doesn't he know which came into his account? Because we're not talking about 20 rand here, we're talking about 500,000. And in all likelihood, there will still be more money that is unaccounted for, and that is almost a year after the president canvassed for the Nasrec election. So that is what doesn't make sense to the majority of the South Africans, that how come he kept quiet for so long? And when the leader of the opposition, Musi Maimane, asked the question in parliament, the president still didn't know that there was 500 that went into the account. Only after that did he approach the speaker and then said, I'm reversing what I said aloud. So it doesn't make sense. There is something that the president is not telling us.
And what do you think that is, Bontalomini? So what might he be hiding? Is there a possibility that he really had no idea? And should you be running for the ANC presidency if you don't have any idea where the money's coming from?
Well, unfortunately, we are not Sangomas, but we are advising him in the spirit of non-interference. When we say face the nation, go to parliament, explain how many times...
But I'm asking you, I mean, I know that you've got to raise funds as
yes,
well, right? Okay,
yes.
So is it possible? I mean, just talk us through how this might have happened.
Normally, as a leader of his caliber, he should know who has donated such big monies. There's no doubt about that. But suppose he didn't know. What is wrong here is I think he panicked beyond comprehension when he was asked this question. He was taken off guard.
Yeah.
And he made that mistake because Bosasa is well known. This Bosasa was established at the beginning. It was a company which was run by a lot of ANC Women's League. And then the Watson brothers bought that company. And this is the company which has been bankrolling the ANC leadership. If you look at that IT part, I'm sure if one goes down and check whether there are links between that Bosasa and IEC, then you will get worried. So this Bosasa company has been bankrolling the leadership of the ANC. Mandashe, you heard about him. You also heard about the former minister, Konyane, and also recently the chairperson of the Land Review Constitutional Committee. So who is Bosasa? That is the question which we should be asking. Who else is going to be announced later? The same Bosasa has been bankrolling this former President Zuma's Christmas parties. 2 to 3 years. We know that.
So it would be extraordinary if he didn't know. Lesi Botefo, if it does come out that he did know about process of funding, what would the impact be?
Well, already the impact is severe. For me, it's, did he really need to do this well endowed as he is? And especially from the company besmirched with so much negativity. We keep talking about state capture. It's the ANC that has captured the state some time back through cadre deployment and also these fuzzy queer arrangements and entities that are intended to bankroll them and deploying people to be there. And the worst thing with Bosasa, and I'm sure Ramaphosa knew about this, is that many people who were associated with it left it with their hands dirty and they were never brought to book. And I would have shied away from being associated with an organization like that. But that notwithstanding, the sooner he faces the nation, he faces parliament and say, I erred. I still believe there is sufficient consensus and goodwill that could embrace him. I'm not sure that I agree with the other colleague who wants to draw the parallel with Jacob Zuma here. And neither is anyone suggesting that he must not be held to account. But the two are not comparable, at least for now, given what I know, at least, and what is in the media.
Becky Monagozulu, obviously we don't know the outcome yet, but Cyril Ramaphosa's grip on power is tenuous. How do you think this is going to be used within the ANC camp by those who don't support him?
Maybe let me start off by correcting my colleague there who says that the issue of the current president and the former president are incomparable. I think that there is a point of divergence on that one, because my view is, with the first example, we were saying that former President Zuma had money circulating and he claimed he didn't know. And South Africans said, no, there is no way that he would have not known that something was happening. Here we're talking about the current president. Money was deposited into his trust account, which he used to canvass for the 2017, for the last year's elections, and he claimed to have known nothing about it. So now suddenly he knows. So for me, these two are comparable. But to answer your question, everything that happens now will have a direct impact on the elections next year. Of course, we know that South Africans are forgiving people, but the problem is you have opposition parties that want to get to the bottom of this, and it is within their right to do so by virtue of the fact that they are opposition parties. Therefore, they have to hold the ruling party to account. So it is within their right to do so. That is exactly the reason why Mmusi Maimane asked the question to the president. Now, I agree with my other colleague there who said that the president panicked on this issue. And this is not the first time that the president has panicked. Whenever something happens, he acts very swiftly, which shouldn't be the case, because if an allegation is laid against you, you must first get all the facts right before you comment on those issues.
Okay.
Otherwise, you'll go to Parliament today, apologize, commit another mistake tomorrow, and apologize. I don't think that is okay.
Okay, the ANC seems to take apologies well. Look at Kagame, not that he really apologized, but, you know, he left his position, and they seem to be members in the ANC taking it well that he has apologized. Do you think the ANC is going to be soft on him? Why are they possibly more forgiving on him than Jacob Zuma?
Well, your question, we need to, first of all, wait for the president to take us into his confidence first, before the ANC. President Cyril Ramaphosa...
Talking about the Friends of Jacob Zuma website when I
all right. President Cyril Ramaphosa has been betting on a wicket of anti-corruption since he ascended to power. So let us make sure that he walks the talk by saying, for instance, I'm here to explain what happened in Parliament, right? But I will not object to the resolution of this House if it wants to do further inquiries. Simple. That's all.
And then it all goes away.
And he can even suggest that there is a commission on state capture. Some of the issues, if the terms of reference are not covering this scandal, I'm prepared to give more powers to the current commission.
Okay.
And then he moves away and runs the country.
For his sake, he's listening to you. We've got a call on the line. Thabo from North Riding. Go ahead, Thabo.
Yes, Jane, I just want to talk about Bosasa. I don't know, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes, I just want to talk about Bosasa, Jane. Bosasa is not a contract. The contract that Bosasa got with the prison is not a contract, especially the catering one and the subsidiary, they call it Sondolo. Sondolo was doing the IT for the prison. That was a pure looting machinery. They're supplying food for the prison like they're doing catering for prisoners. But if you go to the kitchen, in every prison that Bosasa got a contract with, it's prisoners that are cooking, it's prisoners that are doing everything. The guy of Bosasa is handling the key for the fridge. And now government is spending money for food for prisoners. They're buying like in ShopRite and Pick and Pay. They closed all the farm prison. There used to be farm prison in Locop, which was supplying food to the prisoners. They've closed all that. They're buying food cash for prisoners. So Bosasa, they've changed, the parameter fence for prisoners. I don't know how, for prisons, how many times in a year, just to machinery the looting of the money. So
okay, thanks, Thabo. I'm going to cut it off there, but you've just given us another example of the corruption within the company and the sort of impact that it could have on the president. Becky, I mean, where to from here? I asked you about the divisions within the ANC, how this could sort of impact on him during the elections. We know that Zuma's already said, lie low, wait for the elections to happen, let the ANC win, then go for the man. Is that going to happen? Becky, can you hear me? All right. I'm just wondering if you could...
oh, yes, yes.
Okay,
no.
Go ahead. Right, okay. Bonsa Malisa, what's going to happen next? What do you think is going to happen? I know you know obviously your history within the ANC and your political aspirations. What's going to happen as we lead into the elections, the fallout from this?
Well, it's still too early until, as I've said, President has gone to Parliament and addressed us.
Okay, but don't you think regardless what's going to happen, it's going to have some sort of impact within the ANC?
Well, it can, but I don't think the ANC is ready or they have any other candidate other than Cyril Ramaphosa who can take them from today up to May elections.
So will they
notwithstanding whether this is going to have a major impact. But as I said, he just needs to clarify this matter, and then the Parliament say, we are not interested in establishing any committee. This matter must go directly to Zondo Commission. Zondo Commission has got instruments and tools to verify who is Bosasa. They can even ask Bosasa to say, who else have you paid in the ANC? So that it looks like it's a trend. You can't just target Cyril Ramaphosa alone. What about the chairperson of the ANC who was also bankrolled?
Yeah, I know. We're going to be talking about this for a long time, I think. Bonsa Holomisa, thank you very much. Lisiba Tefo and Becky Ngomezulu. Up next, why is South Africa refusing to help stop Myanmar's genocide?